The rain hammered against the windows of the small cafe, a relentless percussion that mirrored the storm brewing inside Daniel's heart. He sat hunched over his coffee, the steam curling into the heavy air, waiting for someone he wasn't sure he could trust anymore. Daniel and Mark had been best friends since third grade. From scraped knees on the playground to late-night talks about dreams and futures, they had been inseparable. But now life had drawn its lines in sharper ink. After college, Daniel pursued a steady career in finance, building a quiet life in Boston. Mark, ever the dreamer, had gambled everything on a startup that now teetered on the edge of collapse. And tonight, Mark had asked for a meeting and a favor. A big one. The bell above the door jingled. Daniel looked up, heart tightening as Mark stepped in, soaked and shivering, but wearing that same crooked smile that had once meant trouble and adventure and loyalty. "Hey, man," Mark said, voice a little too casual. "Thanks for coming." Daniel gestured to the empty seat. "You said it was urgent." Mark sat down heavily, wiping his wet hands on his jeans. He hesitated, then said, "I need a loan. 10,000. If I don't cover the rent for the workspace, the company's done." "I'm done." The words hung between them, heavy and awkward. Daniel felt the weight of them settle onto his shoulders. $10,000 was no small ask, not for him, not now. And Mark had no guarantees to offer. No business plan. Just trust. A silence stretched long and taut. Memories flashed, Mark standing between Daniel and a school bully, Mark selling his guitar to help Daniel pay rent during college, Mark showing up with takeout and bad jokes when Daniel's father passed. But people changed, didn't they? Dreams sometimes blinded the best of us. Daniel swallowed hard, the safe and cautious part of him screaming to say no, to protect himself. Mark saw the hesitation. His smile faltered. "It's okay if you can't," he said quickly, too quickly. "I get it. I shouldn't have." Daniel's mind raced, a battlefield of doubt and loyalty. Then a thought cut through the noise, a simple, profound realization. Trust isn't truly tested when things are easy. It's when everything's at risk that it matters most. Daniel reached into his jacket and pulled out his checkbook. He wrote the numbers carefully, feeling both terror and clarity flood him. He slid the check across the table. "It's yours," he said, voice steady. "Because when I needed someone, you didn't think twice." Mark stared at the check, stunned. His hands trembled. "I'll pay you back," he said, voice breaking. "Even if it takes me forever." "I know you will," Daniel said, smiling genuinely for the first time that night. "But even if you don't, it's okay." They sat there for a moment, two friends anchoring each other against the storms outside and within, their bond reforged not by promises, but by faith. Months passed. Daniel didn't hear much from Mark at first. He worried, sometimes regretted, but he never reached out to ask. He chose to believe. Then, one morning, a package arrived at Daniel's office. Inside was a letter and a thick envelope. "Daniel, the company made it. We made it. Here's what I owe you, plus something extra. Consider it interest and gratitude. I wouldn't have made it without you. Thank you for believing when I couldn't even believe in myself. Mark." Tears stung Daniel's eyes. It wasn't the money. It was the proof that trust, real, daring trust, could plant seeds even in the most barren seasons. Sometimes, the greatest gifts we can give aren't things we can touch or hold. They're acts of faith, of kindness, of trust in another human being. And sometimes, those acts change not just their lives, but our own. Would you also like me to suggest a spoken narration pacing guide, breaks, emphasis points, if you're planning to perform or record this story? It would make it flow even more emotionally when read aloud.